sponsored by Typeform.
Good morning, you are welcome to Epsom Downs on one of the most significant days in the British sporting calendar. Not going to lie to you, it's wet, wild and a bit less than wonderful at the moment, but hopefully by the time we get to 4 o'clock and the Betfred Derby now with a prize pot of £2 million, all that might have just blown away.
Absolutely right, Nick. Yeah, yesterday it was all about thundering on. Today, it could be a little bit more like ploughing on if the rain continues to fall, which we are led to believe it may well do. Could put more of an emphasis on stamina for the likes of James J. Braddock in the big race later on. And of course, we have the small matter of the highest rated racehorse in the world, Calandigan, going to post in a fascinating looking Coronation Cup as well.
What a warm-up act he will be, but it will be 14 colts who go out for the big one at 4 o'clock in search of that piece of thoroughbred immortality.
Coming away. At the line, Sherdar is the winner. Very easy winner. Up toward the line, the commander's in charge. It's no contest. Galileo, a brilliant winner. High Chaparral goes on to win the Derby. On the right, will this make it a Tory? His first Derby. It's going to win the Guineas and Derby. Celebrates as if he's won the Derby at Cal Barcelona. Gordon Hall looks like winning it to bed. And Serpentine is not stopping. Desert Crown, an easy winner. August Rodin begins the enough, and August Rodin gains redemption in the Derby. Another Derby for Aidan O'Brien.
Some stirring, evocative, wonderful memories of derbies gone by, and I guess in recent years, one man has dominated more than any other. 25 years since his first success with Galileo. Today, he bids for a 12th win in the Derby. That, of course, is Aidan O'Brien. And to talk about the Derby, reflect on yesterday and talk about the undercard today as well. Delighted to be joined by both Steve Ryder and Dave Yates. Dave, I'll begin with you. I know that this race, this day, really does course through the veins for you, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's my favourite day of the year. I woke up at 2:30 this morning, sort of got back to sleep at about 4:30. Yeah. Woke up at 10 to 7 and then got ready to come here. But it was like, it was one of those things where I just lay there for 2 hours. You know, I'm 57 years old. These feelings should have passed me by now. But to wake up at 2:30 and just think, you know, it's Derby day. I'm too excited to go to sleep. Manage it 2 hours later, and yeah, it's just an absolutely magnificent day. It's to me there's none like it.
Steve, what about Derby Day to you? Set the scene.
Oh, I absolutely love this day. We get slightly different weather to what we had yesterday for Oaks Day, which I thought was a fantastic day. But the first Derby I came to was Pourmoire in 2011. Mikel Barcelona erecting his irons, and it was just from there I've got hooked on this day. Come back multiple times since, and yeah, just absolutely love Derby Day.
And I guess, look, we're in our different position from yesterday, from when I was with James and Sam, the wet weather position. It's mercifully dry at the moment. The weather has been the big talking point. It doesn't look as though Epsom has copped quite the rain that we expected overnight, as other parts probably not too far away, south, east, west, north, have had. So hopefully it stays that way. You were here yesterday. We'll talk about the racing in a minute, but a lot's been made of how Epsom has revamped, revitalised, hopefully, this experience for people coming. What did you make of yesterday?
I thought it looked like a step in the right direction. It's hard to say categorically when you look at Oaks Day, isn't it, Nick? Like, you have to look at Derby Day. And I'm so pleased with what they've done. Jim Allen, the general manager at Epsom last year, which was I hope that we bounced off the bottom of the seabed last year.
Yep.
Jim Allen, the general manager, acknowledged that. He said that there were loads of things that they were going to do. He looked the problem in the eye from the very start, and I've talked to him sort of off the record about what they've done, what needed to be done, and I'm really impressed by his input. Frank Warren and Queensbury have come in for Derby Fest, which offers free tickets. You have to register with the Jockey Club to get them. And we've got Pixie Lot today. I was going to say I've got all her records, but that would be a lie and would also date me.
I'd ask you for your favourite, but that might stump you as well. But anyway.
And just, I hope that will start the reinvigoration of the hill. We've not been lucky with the weather. There's no getting away from that. But it's not just a one-year project.
No.
We must accept that lots of people don't come to the races to make paddock notes and to examine stride length. There are lots of people who come to the races just for a good day out. The horse racing, yes, it's central, but it's not the only reason they come. William Powell Frith's painting Derby Day of 1850, all those different people. There's hardly a horse in that massive painting. So I really hope that we make the first step today. The weather is obviously a problem, but in statistical terms, you're more likely to get a hot sunny day on the first Saturday of June than you are a rainy one. So I hope we see a step forward today. I think we will, talking to Frank Warren at the Derby draw on Wednesday. And let's hope we can go forward from there.
Quite right. Steve, on the racing front yesterday, we had what we thought would be a relatively open-looking Oaks with Amelia Earhart, Legacy Link & Co. We did have, and I haven't mentioned her name, an outstanding winner of the race.
Absolutely superb. I mean, this is just a ride that oozed confidence for Dylan Brown McMonagle, who this was only his 4th ride at Epsom in his career. Slight stamina doubts, was held up in rear, and he tracks through Amelia Earhart, goes past her. Tracks through Cameo, goes past her. Tracks through Legacy Link. And at this stage of the race, is still on the bridle. Never goes for his stick, hands and heels to the finish. And is such an impressive winner. She'd obviously won the Salterville over 1.2 miles. This is 1.5 miles. Which distance is she going to be best over? She's now a shade of odds on for the Irish Oaks going forward. It wouldn't surprise me if she dropped back to 10, though, going forward. Pretty Polly, even something like the Irish Champion Stakes down the line, I think she could be that good.
Her mother won the Pretty Polly, didn't she? So
yeah, she did.
Look to emulate that.
It looked an open renewal on paper, but we've had a runaway winner.
We have. It's a race that, as a jockey, it evaded Joseph O'Brien. He was beaten on a favourite in the case of Maybe, as I can remember, a few years ago. There he is. His brother won it on Forever Together, but he won the Derby a couple of times. He might win the Derby as a trainer as well today.
He may indeed, yeah. James J. Braddock, a horse who I think that the rain will certainly... I think that there are horses in this race that you can see being suited by a test at the trip, and James J. Braddock is certainly one. This would be an excellent story. You saw Kevin Blake there, obviously better known to TV viewers through ITV and through Sky Sports Racing, but the fact this horse cost 40 grand, James J. Braddock, and they are in with a chance of winning a classic that has just become dominated by the real sort of behemoth operations in horse racing, would be a great story for the Betfred Derby. Even I think the biggest curmudgeon on X wished Kevin well this week and said that it would be a great story for the race, and it's by no means impossible. Thundering On, really impressive. I mean, I don't know about you, Steve. I mean, I'd hate to rubbish Epsom Classics, but I thought going into that was about as humdrum as an Oaks as I could really remember. But then coming out of it the other side, she was such a taking winner that, in spite of my feelings going into it, that the other side, I feel very positive about what she did and her prospects going forward.
It's going to be interesting to see how, when she faces the older horses, you imagine she will do in the Pretty Polly. Legacy Link has ran really well. You'd imagine, given her win at York and the Musidora, that she'll head back to the Yorkshire Oaks would be a logical step for me. Sugar Island stepped forward and reversed that form from Chester, where she was trying to give £5. I thought the front three were good fillies in there. and it's just going to be interesting to see how they shape up with the remainder of the year.
Maybe not dissimilar in ways to the 2000 Guineas. We kind of went into that race thinking, do we have a champion? We came out with one, for sure. And I think it was probably the case yesterday. Do we have an outstanding filly? Yes, we do now.
Yeah, I think that's right. You know, it's very, very rare to see a classic one like that, isn't it? I mean, you know, sitting at the back of the field, just ranging alongside Legacy Link like that with, you know, those are races that are normally of much lower class, aren't they, when you see one sitting there like Dylan Brown McMonagle was. 23 years old, a Breeders' Cup winner, really good season in Hong Kong, multiple Group 1s in Ireland, and now a British Classic winner. Incredible.
Yeah, he is a star in the making, have no doubt. There's plenty from Steve, from Dave throughout the course of the day. It's time to get to the studio, though, on Derby Day, and I know that the man we're about to introduce loves it as much as any other. Angus, good morning.
Nick, good morning to you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Racing TV studios on what is one of the greatest days in sport. Derby Day really does define our sport. It showcases it in the best possible light. The big race itself due off at 4 o'clock this afternoon, and the supporting card provides plenty of ballast for it. Here are some of those horses that we'll see throughout the afternoon.
Never So Brave has struck the front. Brazilian is challenging. Never So Brave, all heart. She's Perfect. Mandana, Bridget's View. Here's Shining River in the royal blue, flashing home with Captivate, but too late. She's Perfect held on.
Here comes Calend again, and the Shima eludes the champ no longer. A ride executed to perfection.
Kinswoman is still there. Trilby's trying hard into the closing stages, but Kinswoman is holding on, and it's Kinswoman who's gone.
Benvenuto Cellini couldn't be any more impressive in the KPMG Champions Juvenile Group 2 stakes.
Allegres will take a bit of passing up towards the line. Allegres just changed his legs. Allegres, he's Waleem. They were clear.
Elsas, who put this race to bed very quickly indeed with that decisive turn of foot, wins the Braveheart clearly.
Fine interview now, getting a gap and towards the near side. Irish Nectar, they race up towards the line, tight.
Those are some of the horses we'll be seeing throughout the afternoon here on Racing TV from 1:30 to 5:55. The ground at the moment at Epsom is described as good to soft, good in places, and good to soft in places on the round course. So slight difference between the straight and the round course. 1:30 start. The Betfred Tattenham Corner Stakes, Group 3, 7 furlongs. Princess Elizabeth Stakes, fillies and mares. And that is a group contest as well, a Group 3 over 1 mile and 113 yards. That's at 2:05. The Coolmore Coronation Cup, Group 1, 1.5 miles. Third race on the card. 6 runners scheduled to go down to post, including Lambourne. They've also got Jan Bruegel, last year's winner, and Calandagan as well. What a race that's going to be. The Dash, the big sprint at 3:15 over 5 furlongs. Then the Derby itself. It's at 4 o'clock this afternoon, over 1.5 miles, of course. The Leicester Piggott Handicap, 1.25 miles at 4:40. We've got the Northern Dancer Handicap over 1.5 miles at 5:20. And finally, a 6 furlong handicap traditionally always ends the card, does so once again. 1:30 to 5:55 this afternoon at Epsom on Derby Day. OK, here's your chance to win some Racing TV merchandise. Get involved in the full SP Challenge. We always do this on a Saturday. We know plenty of you like to get involved, and what better day is there to have a crack at this. Scan that QR code to enter right now. What you've got to do is select the first 4 home in any order. So 4 horses, 1, 2, 3, 4, in the Derby itself at 4 o'clock this afternoon. You'll win a fabulous merchandise bundle. Get up to the TV screen quickly and scan that QR code. You can also go to the website to enter that way. Yeah, good luck if you're entering the full SP Challenge today. First 4 in any order, remember, do have a go. Aidan O'Brien's been having a go at the Derby for many years now, and in truth, he's dominated it.
congratulations for Joseph and Aidan O'Brien, won the Investec Derby with Camelot. Ruler of the world who won the Derby. It was written in the stars, a day of destiny, as Australia followed in her parents' footsteps.
Wings of Eagles gets up to win. Anthony Van Dyke has won it. Serpentine for a remarkable win in the Investec Derby. And August Rodin gains redemption in the Derby.
What a comeback here by City of Troy. City of Troy bouncing back. Lambourne is relentless and is unchallenged. Another Derby for Aidan O'Brien.
Aidan O'Brien has trained 6 of the last 10 winners. Here they are, all detailed for you from 2016. He trained Wings of Eagles. That caused a little bit of an upset, didn't it? Padraig Beggy on board, 40-1 Wings of Eagles went off. He trained Anthony Van Dyke as well in 2019. He went off a 13-2 shot. He trained Serpentine. Remember Serpentine making every yard of the running, 25-1. And he trained August Rodin, City of Troy and Lambourne last year. What a record he's had over the last 10 years. And of course, he got the favourite this time around as well in Benvenuto Cellini. So Aidan O'Brien got a strong hand again this year. Let's detail his runners and all of his opponents. Well, this is Action. He's a really talented racehorse trained by Aidan, and he finished a very good second in the Dubai Dante Stakes behind Item when we last saw him. He comes from stall 11. Here's Alderman, Richard Hannon and Pat Dobbs coming from stall 6. Julie Wood likes to have a runner in the Derby. This looks like a very strong stayer. Plenty to find on form, though. Ancient Egypt, he is a strong stayer as well for Charlie Johnson. David Egan rides from stall number 10. He was a good winner of a listed race at Newmarket last time up. Worthy of his place in the Derby after that performance. A Taste of Glory. Andrew Balding's in great form. Jamie Spencer's going to ride A Taste of Glory, who was well beaten. He finished last in the Lingfield Derby trial. Balzac did a little bit better in the Derby trial at Lingfield, finishing 3rd behind Maltese Cross. Jane Chapel-Hyam trains, and she thinks this horse will outrun its price. Here's Bay of Brilliance. Rafe Beckett had a 3rd in the Oaks yesterday, and he'll be hopeful that Bay of Brilliance can run well. Looks like a thoroughly progressive type who was 2nd in the Lingfield Derby trial. Here's the horse that's likely to go off favourite, Benvenuto Cellini, for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. He's got stall 12 today. Commonly thought to be a good draw, and he was really impressive at Chester when we last saw him. This is Christmas Day. He's quite popular in the market of late. Ronan Whelan will ride for Aidan O'Brien. He won the Leopardstown Derby trial and then was 3rd at York in the Dante. This is Item. Talking of the Dante, he won it. He did so under Colin Keane, and he should have a big say in today's race if he stays. Likewise, James J. Braddock, Joseph O'Brien, Dylan Brown McMonigal looking for an Oaks and Derby double. What a story that would be. He's sure to stay. He'll handle conditions. He won the Derby trial at Leopardstown. Maltese Cross. He's trained by William Haggis, who's in good form. Tom Marquand rides from stall 1, and he won the Lingfield Derby trial last time in gritty fashion. Pierre Bonnard, he was a very good 2-year-old, this horse. Things haven't gone well for him this season. 7th and 2nd in his 2 starts, but he's always been prominent in the market. Here's Poker for Carl Burke and Rowan Scott, number 13 from stall 4, taking up a big rising class today. And Rebel Rocker completes the 14 runners scheduled to go to post. I did finish 2nd here when last seen in the Blue Ribbon trial. So those are the runners, riders and draw, and this is the all-important betting courtesy of Bet365. And Benvenuto Cellini is 7-4. Item is 4-1. Pierre Bonnard is a 7-1 shot. 10-1 James J. Braddock. Maltese Cross is 11-1, and 14s about Bay of Brilliance. Christmas Day 14s and 16-1, and bigger the rest for the Derby. So Benvenuto Cellini is your favourite. He'll be easy to spot in the run with his big white face. So impressive at Chester last time up. He was good last season as well, which culminated in a third in the Futurity at Doncaster on quite soft ground that day. So he'll probably handle conditions. But let's find out more. Let's hear from his trainer, Aidan O'Brien, in conversation with Fran Berry.
The rest of Chester couldn't have got any better, starting with the colts, of course. Benvenuto Cellini, very impressive, and Constitution River in both of the trials. What were we expecting going there?
Yeah, we were expecting, hoping what happened could happen. You're never sure. Benvenuto, very happy. We always felt he was a kind of a 1.5 mile horse that could get away with 1.25 miles, but we never felt he was a ledger horse. So we always felt he's a very high cruise, a lot of class through a race, and that's what he showed at Chester. Yeah, so really couldn't be happier. Then Pierre, we're very happy with him yesterday. He made a big jump forward from the last day, but he needs to jump again, but we think he will. Because he was so far back the last day, we couldn't try and make that too big a jump too quick, so we had to leave enough that he would jump, but there was room for more, and we think there is. We think if he comes over well, we'll know tomorrow. Next day we look sounding at today, but if he does, like we always thought that he was an Epsom horse, and we always thought then the Chester Vaz horse was going to be his danger in Epsom, and that's the way it looks. It looks like the Vaz horse is going to be shorter priced than him at the moment. So yeah, it will be interesting.
He's a big cruising horse, and when you leave him down, he lengthens more than quicken. It's possible that maybe the first half of the race was a bit steadier than ideal for my horse, and just when I was trying to go there, he was slow to get there. Next in the last 3 strides, he went forward, and then one flashed and got me late. Possibly if he came to me earlier, it might have helped me. But look, it was a step forward from his last run, and I do feel he'll make a big step forward again from yesterday.
Pierre, he looked like he tightened up a lot yesterday for the run from the Ballysacks, but there's probably more improvement to come or more to work on.
Yeah, obviously we always like running them into the autumn as their 2-year-old career, and they ran in France in the autumn and heavy ground 1.25 miles. So when that happens, you have to give them a lot of time over the winter to build back up, and you can't tighten them up too much too early in the spring, because they would have had a longer season than some of the others. So we had to go gradual with him. Really, we wanted to get 2 runs into him before Epsom, because he was a big horse and he was still a baby. So that was the plan. Yeah, so I think everything is going according to plan so far. We think he hopefully will come out of the race well, and we think he will move up. So it will be interesting. Ideally, we'd have preferred a stronger pace in Leopardstown. It was a bit of a mess, but because of it, they probably had an easy enough race. They only really sprinted down the straight, and probably wouldn't have been ideal for him, where he's a big horse that'll get 1.5 miles and could even get a ledger trip. So, and I suppose the difference in him and the Vaz horse is he's a 1.5 mile horse that you wouldn't be probably going any further. You go back to 1.25 miles. So that's the difference in the 2 horses. But it will be interesting. Epsom's a tough place, nowhere to hide, and tough. If there's pace on in Epsom, like anything can happen, and it's not for kids really. So it will be interesting.
Aidan O'Brien in conversation with Fran Berry. He fields 4 today in search of a dozen wins in the Derby, the feature race at 4 o'clock that little bit later on, 25 years on from Galileo. I think the remarkable thing I couldn't help but take stock of once again was he won it with Galileo, then it was High Chaparral, then he missed 10 years until Camelot, which is it's inconceivable now.
It really is, you know, that, I mean, well, look, I mean, there were lots of stories in that decade, weren't there, about, you know, I remember Claude Duval wrote one about in the Sun back in the day that David O'Mara was going to take over at Ballydoyle, and that's unfair to single out Claude, because plenty of us was like, well, you know,
it was doing the rounds.
Are the clouds gathering over Aidan O'Brien? Well, they seem to have cleared now, don't they?
They're here now. He's got 4 today, Steve. We ought to talk about Benvenuto Cellini to begin with. Do you feel like if you were a backer, I don't know if you are, you feel like you've dodged a bullet overnight, considering the rain or lack of?
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Driving in today through puddles on the road, I was expecting them to have a lot more rain actually at the course than what we've had. Now, the ground is the question mark for him, isn't it? The full sister Giselle wanted faster ground. The Dam newspaper record wanted faster ground. over in America. And yeah, I think if you backed him, you'd be delighted with how little rain they've actually had on track.
Dave, we'll chart a story of Benvenuto Cellini so far and go back to a race that Aidan O'Brien uses frequently with good 3-year-olds of the future at Leopardstown Champions meeting back in September. This, of course, when we were beginning to learn about him.
Yes, that's right. Remember that this horse was third in the Futurity Trophy on heavy ground at Doncaster behind Hawk Mountain and Action. And yeah, the last few weeks we've had the will he won't he story about Constitution River.
Yeah.
And obviously that horse went and won the Prix de Jockey Club. And I like the way that this horse goes about things. He's been the Chester Vase success. Lots of people said, oh, he's got a touch of the Lambourns, which is an implied criticism that he's a bit slow. And I think I joined in with that at the start. And then I thought, well, hang on, didn't Lambourn win the Derby by 4 lengths last year? And I think, you know, we know from Chantilly how Coolmore can make races, adapt races to be run to suit their main players, and I think they'll do that today with him.
What about you with this horse?
Yeah, the race that we just saw there, the Champions Juvenile Stakes at Leopardstown, has been a good pointer towards the Derby the following season. You had Australia win it, you had Auguste Rodin win it prior to winning the Derby the following year, and back in fourth that day was a boy named Suzy who went on to finish fourth in the French Derby as well. So there is a bit of substance behind that form. The race kind of fell apart at Chester, didn't it? He was sent off 2 to 9, but I think he's proven that he's going to stay this trip. It's interesting, both himself and Item, a bred on the same cross, Frankel out of a Lope de Vega mare. I have stamina doubts myself around Item, but at least you've seen Benvenuto Cellini actually do it over that 1 mile 4 trip. And at a track like Chester, that obviously then comes and is transferable to Epsom.
$1 million question, but do you think he's the favourite and it's the Chester Vase and it's been the ruler of the world and Lambourn route in, but do you think Ryan Moore, do you think he's picked right at this stage? What do you reckon? I do, actually.
Okay. It's interesting looking at the last few Derby winners. Did Aidan O'Brien, of that 6 in the last 10, weren't they ridden by 5 different jockeys? Porrick Beggy, obviously Wayne Lorden, Shamie Heffernan, Ryan Moore, Emmett McNamara. So, you know, it's the choosing or following Ryan Moore's choice is not a way to riches. It can't be in any classic because of the wealth, or any Group 1, because the wealth of sort of runners and plausible winners that Aidan O'Brien has. But yeah, I do think that he's chosen correctly here. I'm very interested to see how Pierre Bonnard's going to run today.
Yes, I'm looking forward to seeing him as well.
You know, the trainer keeps telling us that we haven't seen the real one yet.
Well, I think it's an opportunity to bring in a few of the others, the Aidan O'Brien horses, including Pierre Bonnard, and chart his story, Steve, so far this season. We know his talent at 2, but it hasn't been in either of the Leopardstown Key Trials at 3. We'll start off with defeat, and a sobering defeat, really, if you were a supporter through the winter in the Derby. This is not what you wanted to see when James J. Braddock and Christmas Day chiefly finished in front of him.
It wasn't, and he was well supported this day in order to make a winning 3-year-old campaign. Christmas Day is the one that you're drawn to, in the pink, coming wide round the outside and stays on well down the inside. Pierre Bonnard, for me, was a horse that looked in need of the run this day.
Yep.
We've also got James J. Braddock further back here as well. Endorsement is the horse in the purple that's leading at this stage. He's gone on to then finish a close third behind James J. Braddock and Pierre Bonnard after this. So it was a step forward from Pierre Bonnard from this run in order to go to the Derrinstown, but not the step forward that you probably would have run. And the more that I watched this race, the more I'm not sure about his attitude in a finish as well, because he travels like the best horse in the race. He gets first run against his stablemate who made the running for him, and he still couldn't win.
He looks around, doesn't he? And it almost looks to sort of hesitate under pressure, Pierre Bonnard. I think your observation about him needing the run in the Ballysack, Steve, is absolutely right, and it chimes with what Aidan O'Brien says about this horse. We didn't want to get him too light, he said. He's a big, gross horse, and we wanted him right on the day that we want, and that day obviously is June the 6th today. But from what we've seen so far, those 2 defeats in trials, and the fact that he did look a bit ungainly, and that's putting it charitably, I think, under pressure, then, you know, you can, afterwards, if he wins, you know, we'll be writing, Aidan O'Brien did tell us. But I think on this side of the fence, I'd rather just see what we've seen, and that's a horse who really does need to improve dramatically to win today.
I always wonder whether this is something or nothing. But the beginning of this century, you had Sindar, Galileo, High Chaparral back to back as the winners of what was the Derby and the Derby. Then in nearly a quarter of a century, nothing since. I wonder if that's just an anomaly, but it does surprise me considering the likes of last year Delacroix, Bolshoi Ballet, Fame and Glory all went through it and were big fancies by the time they got to Epsom. It just hasn't happened since.
I mean, this is an interesting one, isn't it? Like the record of different trials and the fashions that come and go. You know, like, as you say, there was that point when Leopardstown was the place. I think we would probably say, oh, the Dante is the preeminent trial. We would have maybe we would have gone to Lingfield and thought, well, you won't see the winner of the Derby there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, well, you have done. I find that really, really hard to build my house on. How do you feel about that in terms of, you know, you're in the spring watching races and just having that instinct at the back of your head that not sure about this as a trial? It's really difficult, I think.
It is. Can you remember at one stage Benvenuto Cellini was supposed to go to Epsom for the Blue Ribbon here?
Yeah.
And everyone went, oh, it can't be the Derby horse then if it's going to go to Epsom. So it is really strange how it does then go. I looked at the Race IQ data between the Ballysacks and the Derrinstown, and the Derrinstown trial is a better trial based on Race IQ time index, on the overall time figure, and the finishing speed percentage. So I think that's probably the form to look at in comparison to the Ballysacks. And I think from Pierre Bernard, over 10 furlongs, this step up and trip will definitely suit him. Will it suit the others?
Well, Pierre Bernard to be ridden by Christophe Simeon, 15 Group 1 successes in Britain, but not once in a classic. Can you imagine the scenes if he comes in at 4:10 or whatever it'll be? Right, let's talk about the winner of that race, because we haven't done that. James J. Braddock, not properly. Kevin Blake has been, of course, a big sort of celebrity owner, if you will, in the racing world of this horse. Yesterday, the quote that came after the race about the Oaks winner to the rider, Dylan Brown McMonagle, was rider like Nijinsky. Such was the confidence. Do you think it's similar today?
I'd be surprised if we see James J. Braddock win in the style of Thundering On.
Yeah.
I think probably everybody would. But if we have a setup here where it's a good test at 1.5 miles, now, we might not have had the rain that we've had, but we've still had a fair bit this week. It's going to be the easy side of good, isn't it? And I suspect that that Ballydoyle are going to make this a true test at 1.5 miles, and that's going to suit some more than others, and I think it's going to suit James J. Braddock.
What chance of the incredible double for trainer and jockey?
Yeah, I do think they have got a fantastic chance. I think it's going to be interesting to see how James J. Braddock's ridden, because yesterday, other than Thundering On, you wanted to be prominent. A lot of them made the running, were prominent, were tracking leaders, whereas Thundering On ran from the rear. And James J. Braddock, the most impressive part of that run at Leopardstown was the final furlong, and I don't think he wants to be too far back coming down the hill. I don't think he's got as much in hand as what he did on Thundering On.
That's a look at the Irish runners. We'll talk about this again at length, doubtless, towards the end of the show. But time to bring in the Brits. And chief among them, it would seem, is a horse trained at Kingsclear, the Dante winner. Let's learn a little bit more about how the horse transitioned from 2 to 3. Here's our own Daryl Jacob.
How's he done over the winter time?
Well, he's definitely lengthened. We had a few sort of little minor niggles with him early in the spring, because the hope had been that we'd gone to Sandown for the classic trial there to give ourselves another option of another run if we wanted it. But you know, that wasn't to be, and everything came right for the Dante, and you know, he looked pretty good that day.
Yeah, he was very good. And just Colin Keane's initial reaction when he came back, he thought to himself, like, he was very well balanced, and he was a little bit green in the closing stages. But what I loved about him at the end of the Dante, the way he, in the last sort of furlong, he sort of powered, he went away from the runner-up.
Yeah, look, he was strong at the end of the race. It's what you want to see, really. I love the way he travelled through it as well. I mean, he is still quite a raw horse. He's had only the 3 starts, and we've been a little bit limited on the grass cullets we've used this year just because of the dry weather. So he hasn't probably had the conditioning to, to the demands of Epsom that we might usually have had with potential Derby horses. So, that's an unknown, really, is how he handles the track. But I'd be pretty confident that if all went well, he'd have the class to play a part, and certainly I don't think the extra 2 furlongs would be a problem to him.
Yeah, he stays well, but it just... Yeah, I was just going to go back, because he's obviously ran in sort of flat tracks, the undulations of Epsom, you think that'll be...
I think it'll be a test, but you don't know until you try. But I think what would help is the fact that he's got the class to be able to travel, which makes it a little easier. If they can not behind the bridle going down the hill, it helps. And I certainly think the way he travelled that York suggests he should be capable of travelling in a Derby.
That was Andrew Balding, who would love, I'm sure, to take the Derby trophy back to Kingsclear, the historic place, of course, where Mill Reef was conditioned. Right, the horse in question is Item, as we take in a couple of Aidan O'Briens as well. Steve, this being the Dante, a horse who won at Kempton and Bath at 2 and re-emerged to keep his record unbeaten at 3.
Yeah, this is at York's Dante Festival, when there was definitely a track bias when you wanted to be down the far side. And my eye is drawn to the fact that the 1-2 this day, Action, who's currently leading with the White Blaze, and Item in behind, come down the best part of the track this day. Christmas Day is in the dark colours this time, nearest to the camera, and I'd forgive him this effort. Timeform gave him a rating of 112 plus on the day that he won the Ballysacks, 108 for this. And I just think that the 2 on the right are flattered by where they raced this day. Item hasn't got your normal stereotypical profile for a Derby, going via Kempton and Bath prior to winning the Dante. Yes, he's impressive, but looking at his breeding, I'm not convinced he'll stay. Obviously, Frankel's going to put in stamina into the pedigree, but he's out of a miler who's produced a sprinter and a miler. Yes, they were by Kingman. This is by Frankel. I'm just not convinced a 1.5 miles might be Item's best trip.
Dave, is he the best? The betting would have it. Is he the best of British going into it?
Ooh, I think that I think Maltese Cross and Bay of Brilliance probably should be nearer to him. As Steve said, there was half the width of the track between those 2 and Action, Item and Christmas Day, and that is definitely worth taking into consideration. He's got to prove his stamina. On the plus side, he did win that trial and he's still unbeaten. So, I think that you've sort of... It's right to hold one's enthusiasm in check by thinking about where they raced on the track and the fact that he's got to prove himself over 12 furlongs here today, but his overall profile, I think, is an attractive one.
Right, we were mentioning Derby trials, and maybe those being slightly in vogue again. Lingfield would be that, with Anthony Van Dyke and I think Adiyar coming through that. Maltese Cross and Bay of Brilliance we'll talk about. Let's talk about the former, the horse you've just mentioned, Dave. I'll stick with you with Maltese Cross, who's 2 for 2 this season. Again, any rain, Tom Markand was really worried about it when I spoke to him midweek at Nottingham. I think he'd love it as quick as possible, so anything that doesn't come down in the next few hours is a bonus.
Yeah, that's right. But I think they'll be happy enough with what they've got. Really interesting horse, this. He doesn't do things by extended distances, but he does know how to roll his sleeves up and have a fight. William Haggas has had 4 runners in the Derby. Aidan O'Brien's got 4 runners today, and I think he's already had 104. And it's very interesting. William Haggas is enthusiastic about this horse, and I can see why. I think he'll shine at 1.5 miles as he did at Lingfield, and I think he's got much to recommend him. They probably wouldn't have chosen stall 1, but maybe talk about the Derby draw is a bit overplayed these days.
Football was coming home, wasn't it? The summer of '96 when William Haggas won the Derby with Charmit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so what is it? 30 years ago. It's amazing, but it's interesting that a couple of years ago he had a six-length Dante winner who was favourite for the Derby, and he said, "We're not putting him back in," and that was the fragile and sadly ill-fated economics. But it's a vote of confidence that that the trainer has been, I think, so positive about Maltese Cross here.
Okay, really interesting running of the Lingfield Derby trial this year, which also featured close up in second, Bay of Brilliance, and we're going to see him in action with another who's a big price and a big sum as well, Poker.
Yeah, this is an impressive performance. Beats Poker by 8.5 lengths this day, was giving that rival £7 as well. Now, he was entitled to do this. He was sent off 2 to 5, but it was impressive nonetheless. Had previously won at Goodwood, was conceding race fitness to Maltese Cross in the Lingfield Derby trial, and I think that's crucial for him. I really like Bay of Brilliance for this. I think down the line he's probably going to turn into a ledger horse. I think staying is definitely something that he'll do. Any softening of the ground will suit him as well, because it is going to be a stamina test. And we've touched on with team tactics with Ballydoyle, they're going to make this a truly run race. And I just really love how strong he is at the finish. Yes, this is a mile and 1. He'd previously won over a mile and 2 as a 2-year-old. I really think he's going to stay on well. I completely understand what Dave's saying. Maltese Cross doesn't ever win by far. I think it's been a neck, and a short head. He doesn't win by far, but I would be surprised if Bay of Brilliance doesn't reverse that form off the back of that run.
Okay, there we go. Don't forget, Rafe Beckett, of course, he's got unfinished business with the Derby. He's won the Oaks a couple of times. It was a bit disappointing what happened with Pride of Arras, a 4-to-1 shot last year, so we'll see with Bay of Brilliance. Right, let's, talking of unfinished business, a trader had the big price second in the race last year, Lazy Griff. Charlie Johnston brings the most immaculately bred, beautiful-looking horse in ancient Egypt, who got right back on track, Dave, last time at the Guineas meeting. When people gather at 20 to 4 or so to have a look at the horse in the parade ring, he's going to draw plenty of attention.
Yeah, he certainly is. As you say, he's had just the one career defeat, and you know, this the Newmarket Stakes is not. We talk about the fashion of trials. The Newmarket Stakes isn't really the first place you'll go looking for the Derby winner at Epsom, but he wins this in tidy enough style. It's over a mile and 1, and they'll be. I should think they'll be pleased that they haven't got the maximum or more than forecast rain. I think that he'll stay. Obviously, Keir Drabson's had a couple of near misses at big odds. I can see this horse going well at an each-way price.
Okay, we shall see. I want to give a good word as well, and I think she deserves a little bit more luck. Julie Wood, I gather it's her birthday as well today. She owns Alderman, who is right up against it, but it's a runner in the Derby, and hopefully goes a good bit better than the one that unseated at the starting stalls 2 years ago, Voyage. So hopefully she has a great day. There are some very big price horses in here, aside from those that we've mentioned. On official ratings, Item is the top rated. In conclusion, Steve, and we'll talk about this again at the end of the show, but to complete this section, what's your Derby shape-up looking like?
I think if it's going to be a really impressive winner of the race, I think it's going to be it's going to be Benvenuto Cellini. I think if you're telling me that a horse is going to win by 5 lengths, I think it is going to be Benvenuto Cellini. But for me, the value play, given that I know he'll stay, he'll appreciate the ground, and I think the race will be run to suit, is Bay of Brilliance.
Dave?
I put Benvenuto Cellini in the Daily Mirror, so I will stick with him. I think the Lingfield Derby trial, I think, will have a bearing here. I actually think those two will be quite hard to split, Bay of Brilliance and Maltese Cross, but I can see them both running well. And I think James J. Braddock, again, if we get the scenario that we think we're going to get, he's another one that I think will shine the way that the race will be run.
Gentlemen, for the time being, thank you very much indeed. Let's head back to the studio, rejoin Angus, who's going to use Race IQ to provide yet more context for the great race.
Good stuff, lads. I really enjoyed that preview of the Derby. I'm going to have a chat about Benvenuto Cellini, and I'm going to start off by mentioning the likes of Galileo and Auguste Rodin and City of Troy. They had big, long, raking strides. What set them apart, though, was not only could they save energy by having a big, long, raking stride and a low cadence, they could also quicken. For example, Auguste Rodin ran sub-11 second furlongs when he won the Derby. City of Troy ran sub-11 second furlongs in the Juddmonte International and in the Dewhurst as well. To win a Derby, though, you do have to stay. And the best way of staying is having a big, long, raking stride, saving energy and not spinning your wheels quickly and using up too much energy early in the race. So let's have a look at Lambourne in that context last year and have a look at his stride. And it's big and long. Look at this, 8.06 metres, his maximum stride in the race last year, the second longest in the race. And then you ally that to his cadence, how quickly he spins his wheels, how quickly he hits the ground in front. And he was 18th, 2.12 strides per second. That was the lowest, if you like, in the race. A lot of horses spinning their wheels quicker than that with a much higher cadence. But he was saving energy with his big, long, raking stride. Go back a year. Let's go to City of Troy, and you get a very similar picture. He too had a big, long stride. And you can actually see this better visually there. Look how he stretches and reaches for the ground with no knee curl. That's why he didn't handle the dirt when he ran in the Breeders' Cup Classic, because he doesn't grab the ground. He stretches, and he stretched to a maximum length of 7.98 metres, the longest in the race. But look at his cadence. Again, it's well down in terms of the highest cadence in the race. He was only the 10th at 2.16 strides per second. A lot of horses with a much higher cadence, much more knee curl, spinning their wheels a lot quicker and using up energy and then getting tired in the latter stages of the race. But City of Troy was able to employ his big, long, raking stride. So how does that relate to the favourite, Benvenuto Cellini? Let's have a look at his last 3 runs. There he is, big white face, of course, easily recognisable. Chester, last time up. His maximum stride was a huge 8.36 metres, the longest stride in the race by some way. And his cadence was the lowest, 2.09 strides per second, 5th of 5. A lot of horses spinning their wheels quicker than him, but his big, long stride winning the day. Likewise at Doncaster, he was beaten at Doncaster, but he had the maximum stride length. Now, bear in mind, that's on heavy ground. So he still was able to utilise his big, long stride on heavy ground. It was the longest. His cadence was the worst, if you like, 2.07 strides per second. He was still able to utilise that big, long stride on soft ground. And then at Leopardstown, again, another example of him having the longest stride, 7.84 metres, and his cadence, well, yeah, you've got it. Last again, 4th of 4 at 2.14 strides per second. Other horses with much higher cadences in those races than him, but his big, long stride won the day. But what will set him apart is not that big, long stride. That'll help him get the trip. What will set him apart is the Auguste Rodin and City of Troy point, in that he's got speed. Let's have a look at him winning last year at Killarney, and look at him sprint in the closing stages of this race. He came home really strongly. His finishing speed percentage was 114.55%, so he's 14.55% quicker in the last couple of furlongs of this particular race over a mile than he was in the rest of the race. His final 3 furlongs, 11.4, rated as very fast against par. 11.01, very fast against par. And his final furlong, 11.72, again, very fast against par. The par FSP was 103.73, and he's 114.55. And if you look at his career, he's fired other similar finishing speed percentages throughout it. He is a fast horse. I'll give you some of those finishing speed percentages. 109.41, that 114 we saw there. 110.09, 98.92 at Doncaster, of course, in the heavy ground. 105.29 at Chester. So he's got what's required to win a Derby, in that he's got a big, long, raking stride and a low cadence to save energy and enable him to get the trip. But he's got that magic ingredient in that he is able to quicken as well. I'm not sure that the ground is necessarily ideal for him. I think he'd be a very good winner on fast ground, but he might still win because he is an outstanding talent. And he is the Derby Insight, courtesy of Race IQ. They really like him, and I'll just give you some of the details here. The #1 contender for Aidan O'Brien, obviously. He's won the Derby 11 times, last 3 years as well. Ryan Moore looking for 5 wins in the Derby. He shone on his return to the Chester Vase. 5.35 seconds in that race, quicker than the par. Wow. He's got loads of speed, and remember that massive stride that he showed at Chester. And that is detailed in this insight, that huge stride, averaging almost 8 metres at Chester, and with a low stride cadence as well. Untapped stamina reserves with the ability to quicken gives him an outstanding chance this afternoon in the Derby. OK, more Race IQ insights to follow a little bit later on. But now, it's Tom Bull time.
Well, all this talk of rain, actually, it's a little bit sunny now. I'm joined by Bet365's Pat Cooney alongside now, and behind us, Pat, is generous, which describes you very well, a very benevolent, kind-hearted man. How are you? Did you enjoy yesterday?
Yes, it was good fun, and who knows, we might just have seen a really, really top-class filly. And I think yesterday before the race, we were saying, oh, it doesn't look a vintage renewal, but she might just be top-class, so I'm looking forward to seeing her back that next run-up.
Yeah, who knows, we might get an equally as impressive Derby winner today. How's the market looking for that? Because there was a little bit of rain forecast, hasn't quite materialised just yet, but has it had an impact on the market?
Well, it just really, it's quite strange. We did think it would be quite low-key, people waiting for the ground, but it's been very vibrant in the market. Benvenuto Cellini, we did go 2-1 at one stage, but he has been well supported. He's now into 7-4. Item we thought might just be the drifter of the race. We went 9-2 from 4, and then we've laid that one as well. So it's a real lively market. I don't think Benvenuto will be bigger than 2-1, but there's plenty of horses being backed each way. And would you believe Rebel Rocker is one that's been fancied?
Wow, I'm surprised at that.
At 100-1, Faye Bramley training the Derby winner would be quite the story. There are a few scribes in the press room saying this is overpriced at 180. So on that basis, if you do give it a bit of an inkling, I would take the 80. I think he's the type of horse that'll probably go for like 50 or 40. Winning and being in the frame is another issue, but there's plenty of horses being backed, and of course with Aidan O'Brien having as many runners in the race, punters aren't afraid to back his perceived second, third and fourth strings each way, but as things stand at the moment, it's a rock-solid favourite at 7-4.
OK, interested to know, after Joseph O'Brien's exploits yesterday with Thundering On, if his horse, James J. Braddock, has had any kind of support in the market himself?
No, he's actually running for us at the moment. He'd be a winner for us. He's around about 10-1, and I think he'll remain around that sort of a price, but I suppose the interesting horse really is Pierre Bonnard. Punters looking for horses that are going to stay the 1.5 miles, are proven on soft ground. You have to be a bit lenient of his 2 runs this year, but I seem to remember saying the same thing about Auguste Rodin and City of Troyes 3 years ago and 2 years ago. So it's not impossible that he might be the one that the market latches onto nearer the time. But there's a long way to go between now and the off. But as things stand at the moment, I think that's the betting order, with maybe Rebel Rocket just climbing up the charts a little bit.
Yeah, Pierre Bonnard could be cherry ripe now, couldn't he,
yes,
after those
indeed.
2 starts? Maybe put spot on for the race today. What about the Coronation Cup? I've got to say, Pat, this is the best renewal I've seen for a long time. Yeah,
it's terrific, isn't it? Calandigan, at the moment, he's just about odds on 10-11. His price and his chance of go on just how the ground goes. I think there's a feeling that we could get him beat if it was really, really soft ground. Of course, he was beaten in this race a year ago by Jan Bruegel. It's an interesting one. He's probably the best horse in the world, certainly at this trip. So ordinarily you'd think, well, that would make him the likely winner. But if you want to be a layer of him, you've got 3 Aidan O'Brien horses and a good Carl Burke horse as well in your corner. So it's a fascinating race. I think I'd be on the fence with that one. There's probably, I think you could open your racing post and find better 10-11 chances. But as I say, if the ground stays like this and it's just on the soft side, maybe he'll be very popular. But he's a much better horse than when he got beaten in this race a year ago, I feel. But I don't know, you can get anything beat on the ground, I think.
Yeah, officially rated 130, highest rated racehorse in the world. It's great to have him here at Epsom, isn't it? I actually think Conversion's got a good chance, you know. Penalty carried at Newbury last time, won really impressively. OK, this is a step up, but I think he might be up to it.
Yeah, who knows? He's a bit of the wild card of the race, isn't he? So Calandigan, he's been all around the world, and so his performances have been tremendous. But you know, he was pretty much all out to win last time out, I felt. So who knows? From a bookmaking side, we quite like the idea. We've got 3 Aidan O'Brien Group 1 winners in our corner. We're not normally saying that as bookmakers. So if he wins, so be it. But you know, we'll be looking to get it back in the next couple of races.
OK, what about the rest of the card then, Pat? Because I imagine there's a fair few movers around.
Yeah, the first race is divided opinion. Never So Brave looks as though the form book points his way, but he's unproven on soft ground, whereas Joseph O'Brien, Dylan Brown-McConaughey, why not get with them?
Yeah, exactly.
Al Cantor, that has been popular, 5-1 into 7-2. Again, punters working on the basis, well, at least I know he goes on the ground, and I think he's only got, what, £3 or £4 to find with the favourite. So I think Never So Brave, I think he'll shorten up a little bit, but Asheen Mervyn was expensive for us yesterday, and we wouldn't want him riding too many winners today, so that would be another key horse to start us off. So if you can assure me, Tom, you can get Never So Brave beat and Calandigan, then we'll take our chances in the Derby.
Do you know what? It's done. done. I'll make sure of it myself. Okay, who are you going for in the big race then? The Derby selection from Pat Cooney is?
Pierre Bonnard. I think he's got more going for him at his price of 7-1 than anything else I can look at the market.
Okay, good stuff. Well, you heard it here first. He doesn't mind the Joseph O'Brien double. James J. Braddock is very much on side.
Full SP Preview, proudly sponsored by Typeform.
Now some breaking news and a surprise contender in the marathon.
Yes, Rachel. One of the front runners has caught the leading pack. He's carrying a fridge.
Let's go to the football. Clive.
He's volleyed it in from the spider cat.
What on earth is going on today? Look at the cycling.
The entire fault is hitting the wrong turn. Now look at this from the tennis.
She's just returned the ball from row 6. Fridge man's going to win.
He is.
Whatever the money, it's never ordinary at Bet365.
Full SP Preview, proudly sponsored by Typeform.
Slightly misty and murky scene above the downs at Epsom today. Hopefully things will brighten up. Whatever the weather, that is an iconic track that will be graced by a global equine superstar this afternoon.
Calandigan draws level. It's neck and neck, stripe for stripe. Jan Bruegel is just doing enough. But the French horse is remorseless. Calandigan wins at Ascot in the Kipco Champion Stakes. Masquerade ball the inside, Calandigan the outside. Head and head, nodding to the line. They hit the line, and maybe Calandigan's won it.
Looming big time west wind blows from Calandigan. Here comes Calandigan, and the Shima eludes the champ no longer. A ride executed to perfection.
Officially the best horse in the world. Calandigan, rated 130. He's back this afternoon at a venue where he was defeated last season by Jan Bruegel, and they'll knock heads once again. We've already seen Calandigan this season in Dubai, where he was good in winning the Longines Dubai Shima Classic. Let's have a look at the last 10 winners and put the race in context. Aidan O'Brien's won it 3 times in the last 10 years, including the last couple of years. Of course, Jan Bruegel, as I mentioned, Luxembourg as well in 2024. He also won it with Highland Reel in 2017. There are some very good horses in that Roll of Honour, aren't they? Particularly Gaeth, Emily Upjohn as well, Cracksman likewise. It always is a top-class race, the Coolmore Coronation Cup. And this is the betting at the moment, and Calandigan is now a shade of odds on, 6-5 on. Francis Graffard has said, despite the conditions, the rain, which might not necessarily be in his favour, he has to run, to quote Mr Graffard. He wants to run him, he thinks he needs to have a run. He's a racehorse, he says, and they're meant to run. Jan Bruegel, 5-2, Convergent, 10-1. Lambourne, Derby winner last year, big looking 10-1. Bay City Roller, 14s and 40s, Illinois. But, it is the rematch, Calandigan, Jan Bruegel. 6 of them will go to post for the Coolmore Coronation Cup. A fascinating renewal, Nick.
It is, and it must be the best horse to run at Epsom in many, many, many a year. 130 the rating. Cyrus de Zegler, when he ran here, didn't have his peak rating. Now, I wanted to bring you back in shot, lads, because behind us, Francis Graffard and co, plenty on the day, won't mind seeing that it's getting a little sunnier. It's not that warm, but hopefully the grey stuff you can see is being blown that way. We'll find out a little bit later on. It seems funny, really, Steve Ryder alongside, that you build up to a horse like Calandigan and he's not the main act on the day, because we've, of course, talked about the Derby at length. But it's fantastic that we've got a horse beaten on this card last year and on an irresistible roll thereafter, back to try and right the wrong.
Yes, since his defeat in this race, has then gone on and won 5 times in 5 Group and Grade 1s. Yep. It's just a fantastic horse. I thought it was really interesting last year because a lot was made of his attitude. He hadn't won a Group 1 at that stage. got beaten, was called a few names, but now he looks the real deal, doesn't he?
Doesn't he just? Let's, Dave, start off his year, which was back in March. And talking about righting wrongs, he was beaten in the Dubai Shima Classic of 2025. And cool as you like, he returned in 2026 under Mikel Barcelona. And briefly, as west wind blows gave them all a run, looked in trouble, only to just be squeezed gently home in showman style.
Yeah, this was a flamboyant victory when you think of the way that he storms home. Yeah, what a difference 12 months makes. I mean, as Steve said, he got called plenty of names when he was beaten by Jan Bruegel in the Coronation Cup 12 months ago. He was the 13-8 on favourite, and since then it's just been all gravy, hasn't it, at the highest level. We saw that Japan Cup victory. Here he comes to collar west wind blows in the Shima Classic. The trainer, Francis Graffard, said initially on, was it Wednesday, there were rumours from the Aga Khan studs camp that he might not come because of the threat of rain softened ground. When he was declared on Thursday, Francis Graffard said, you know, it's not part of the plan to have a hard race in soft ground, but we think he'll go in it. That, you know, that's not a problem. And he's reported that he's a stronger horse than he was this time last year. So, you know, I think he'll reverse running with Jan Bruegel today and get his revenge.
Well, let's see, Steve, last year's running of the Coronation Cup, the now Coolmore Coronation Cup with this big prize fund, moved back to Saturday as well. This, of course, was on the Friday of the meeting, and with continuous setting the pace, Coolmore got him beaten on the day. Jan Bruegel eyeballed him, and this is, I guess, to illustrate exactly perhaps when Calandagan received the criticism that he did.
He did, and on this day, it was, is it your attitude that's got you beaten? Is it the ability that's got you beaten? Was it the stamina that got you beaten? Or was it the track? Well, since then, we know that it's certainly not ability. We know that it's not attitude, and we know that it's not stamina, because he's won these Group 1s over 1.5 miles. So I'm still got a question mark about the track. He leans in behind Jan Bruegel, and I do think the track is a question mark for Calandagan. Tactics, again, are going to be fascinating in this race.
Aren't they just?
It was then made a strong test, continuous, made the run in. Jan Bruegel then took it up. It was a bit like a relay race. And I think they're probably going to do the same again. But which Ballydoyle horse is going to be making the run-in? I think Illinois is in there as a bit of a decoy. I think Lambourne's going to end up trying to emulate the same tactics that he won the Derby last year. Jan Bruegel, if he's then good enough, can then go past. And you know how Mikel Barcelona is going to ride Calandagan. He's going to be settled in rear and going to be ridden for a turn of foot.
Let's have a look at last year's Derby winner, Lambourne, back in a different role, no longer the Coolmore #1. He wasn't this day, but in this race either. This, of course, his finest hour and then some.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a strong galloping performance over 1.5 miles at Epsom on rain softened ground. So we can certainly see this horse running well today. I think when he ran in the Huxley Stakes, when he beat Bay City Roller, he was getting weight, but I think 10 furlongs by fairly common agreement would be on the short side for Lambourne. And yeah, it's very interesting how you read the tactics, Steve. I must say, I think that could well turn out to be the case. I suppose the one thing, just to return to Calandagan quickly, and that was, Aidan O'Brien said, we knew that if we got Calandagan on his knees when it mattered, he would struggle to go past Jan Bruegel. They'll try and do the same today. I think it'll be harder to get Calandagan on his knees in 2026 than it was in 2025.
OK, let's hear from Aidan O'Brien on the squad of 2026 in the Coolmore Coronation Cup. Here's Kevin O'Ryan.
Aidan talking about his full brother Lambourne, that's in the Coronation. He's going to take his chance with Jan Bruegel.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, Illinois and Jan Bruegel run. Illinois obviously gets the trip well. Lambourne, very happy with him. He had a very good run in Chester. We were surprised he was able to win over 1.25 miles. So he obviously improved since last year, and 1.5 miles will suit him well. And Jan Bruegel is a solid, hardy horse, and we were delighted with him in Chester as well. So Ronan's horse in the Derby, we forgot to speak about. He's lovely too since he's lovely too since York, and we think the 1.5 miles will help him as well. So no, happy with them all, Kevin. So yeah, hopefully.
And Jan Bruegel, that was a fascinating renewal last year. Calandagan travelled up alongside you, but your horse just pulled out that bit more.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he stays very well. He's a hardy customer. He handled Epsom well last year. He's had the prep, and everything has went well in that. So yeah, couldn't be happy with him. Everything has went well since, and like I say, looking forward to the two meeting again.
There aren't many big races anywhere around the world, certainly that Graffard and O'Brien don't tend to have their fingers on. But nowadays, Carl Burke as well, Steve, who's got Convergent, who is a progressive horse, 5 from 8. We wonder where the ceiling of the ability lies.
Yeah, we don't know how good this horse is. This was a Group 3 over 1.5 miles at Leopardstown last season in September. Forced a bit wide round the straight, ends up beating Fleetfoot by a length and a half. Sons of Lovers was back in third. Now, off the back of this, you wouldn't think that this is good enough in order to win a Coronation Cup. You look back, Al-Azi was back in 5th. Now, Convergent then disappoints in Germany on the final start last season, but that was after a long year on ground apparently described as softer than ideal. But then he got Clifford Lee, I felt, out of trouble in order to win the John Porter at Newbury on his reappearance, not getting a clear run. And I think here's another like Calandagan that's going to be ridden in an attempt to win this with a turn of foot. But I just think those Coolmore tactics might mean that it's stamina that wins the day rather than a turn of foot.
OK, let's round off by talking about Bay City Roller. In the quotes I was looking at this morning in the Racing Post, Dave, I think, paraphrasing slightly, but George Scott saying that he wanted to be driving down to Epsom with a windscreen full of rain. It's not probably come for him.
No, that's absolutely right, because this horse is a Group 1 winner in the grosser price from Bayern, and yeah, those would have been Bay City Rollers' ideal conditions. This obviously is the Tassel Gold Cup over the extended 10. Almacam delivers on this day. The return to 12, I think, is a plus, but yeah, the connections would certainly wanted the heavens to open. I don't think it could have rained too much for them, really.
Right, team tip in the Coolmore Coronation Cup.
I'm chancing Lambourne from the front, same as the Derby last year.
To the Epsom double, Dave?
Yeah, I will go with Calandagan to right last year's wrong.
I'd love to see Calandagan. The very fact that he's here, Angus, I thought that they would probably avoid Epsom altogether, but the presence of a certain Arc winner in the same stable who's going to go to Ascot next week instead of this horse, it would seem, is fascinating in itself. But, as you're about to tell us and show us once again through the prism of race IQ, it wasn't his day at Epsom 12 months ago.
No, it certainly wasn't, Nick. He didn't have the run of things, really. I was surprised that people wanted to question his attitude after what happened at Epsom last year. How could you possibly doubt him after the world-class efforts he put up behind City of Troy in the Jubon International and when he was beaten in the Shima Classic? Because in those races, he produced amazing data in defeat. He was poorly positioned in both races, but he showed a fabulous turn of foot in both of those contests. And then people went on to doubt him after what happened in the Coronation, as detailed by the boys. And I've only just stopped delivering humble pie to plenty of people after last year's Coronation. What happened according to the data? Let's have a look at it in full. It's an interesting race in terms of data. I'm not sure that good to soft ground necessarily suits Calandagan. I think he wants fast ground at Ascot, that kind of thing. But nonetheless, he's run a good race. But the first thing to say is he's very slowly into stride. This is what he does normally. 3.49 seconds to get to 20 miles an hour. Half a second slower than Jan Bruegel. He's on the back foot immediately. That means he's about 3 3/4 lengths behind Jan Bruegel, behind the speed already. Now, he is generally ridden patiently. We saw that in the Shima Classic this year. But he's on the back foot in a race that's going to be run quite attritionally. They wanted to get him on his knees, as Aidan said, so they're going to go hard. That's what they did from the front, and Jan Bruegel has attended the pace with Calandagan 3 or 4 lengths off it. The time here was very good, 2.5 seconds under the race IQ standard, a time index of 8.2, suggesting they did go a very strong gallop. But Calandagan's data is really good through this race. Essentially, he's playing catch-up after that really slow start where he ceded just under 4 lengths to Jan Bruegel. And he gradually makes up ground through the latter stages of the race, using up a little bit of energy. He's made up a bit of ground at this point. You can see the first 3 highlighted. The third horse, of course, was Gia Volotto. But what he does here is, against Jan Bruegel, he's 0.12 seconds quicker than Jan Bruegel through the 6th furlong, gradually making up his ground, but having to run faster than Jan Bruegel. He does so through the next furlong. He's marginally quicker through the 7th furlong than Jan Bruegel, 0.04 seconds quicker. Now, you might not think this is significant, but he's gradually using up a bit more energy than Jan Bruegel is because he's having to make up ground. There you go, 8th furlong, he's 0.29 seconds quicker than Jan Bruegel as they come down the hill and go round Tattenham Corner. You'll find that once again in the next furlong he's a bit quicker as well, 0.04 seconds quicker now, as Barcelona looks for a little bit of running room. Once again, he'll be quicker through the next furlong than Jan Bruegel as he makes his move to the outside, only marginally, 0.01 seconds quicker as he gets on the coattails of Jan Bruegel. I agree with Steve at this point. He doesn't look to handle the track. He's hanging down the camber a little bit. He's still running fast, though. He's quicker than Jan Bruegel here, trying to get to the girths of the Aidan O'Brien winner, 0.18 seconds quicker through the 11th furlong. So all of these furlongs that we've detailed from the top of the hill, he's been quicker than Jan Bruegel, apart from this one, the final furlong. He's done his running to get there after that slow start, and then Jan Bruegel edges him out by 0.02 of a second in that final furlong. I'd like to show you this. This is a depiction of the sectionals run by both horses, the yellow line representing Calandagan. And you can see that sort of big gap, or the gap between the lines, telling us as the lines go down, when they go down, the horses are getting quicker. And you can see the gap. Look at Calandagan running quicker. That gap showing that for a lot of the race, from 7 furlongs to the line, he ran quicker than Jan Bruegel, apart from the last furlong where Jan Bruegel was marginally quicker than him. He was using up more energy because of that slow start to gradually make up the ground. And then in a strongly run race, with Jan Bruegel being a strong stayer, he couldn't go past. I fancy we're going to get a very similar race today. And I fancy that it will be hard for Calandagan again on a track that doesn't necessarily suit him. I'm relishing the clash between them. I can't wait to see Calandagan back on fast ground, particularly at Ascot, where he has excelled over the years. He remains a top-class horse, and let's see what he can do this afternoon. But we shouldn't be harsh on him after that defeat last year. Quite simply, let's just go to Epsom and toast him.
Oh, it's all laughter here. I've made my way inside. And do you know what? It wouldn't be Derby Day without the presence of the Chianti connoisseur, the Sauvignon Supremo, that is the wine tipster, Neil Phillips. Neil, great to see you. You're here yesterday. Do you enjoy yourself?
Well, Tom, I enjoyed that intro, first of all. That was fun.
I've got to give you due credit for your wonderful job.
I really like that. That was a great one. Yeah, I was here yesterday. It was a great vibe. Actually, I was here Thursday on setup day, obviously, and you had that sense that it was